Welcome to Joy Recovery Radio. In this space, we talk about betrayal, recovery, and relational harm through the lens of integrity, accountability, and trauma-informed care. Our goal is not to rush healing or prescribe outcomes, but to offer language, clarity, and grounded perspective. This podcast is educational. You're invited to listen slowly, take what resonates, and leave the rest. Let's begin.
Today we're going to be doing a deep dive on one of the most triggering phrases a betrayed partner will hear. Foundationally, it's a 4-word phrase, sometimes even 5, and it is,
drum roll,
I've already told you everything. That sentence gets repeated over and over, especially when the betrayed partner starts to ask questions. Now, what we often don't see, especially early on, is the intention behind this response. So when someone says, I've already told you everything, we soon come to realize that that response is a deflection strategy. It's intended to make it appear like the only thing left standing between him and her healing is her own inability to let things go. By saying, I've already told you everything, it's an attempt to cast an image of being cooperative, transparent, an open book. So let's be honest here. The betrayer's intention to appear like he's done his part of the heavy lifting is what is behind that phrase. Betrayed partners, if you hear and you know everything and your gut is setting off red flags, I urge you to listen, because the true intention behind his words might be just another way to gaslight you, shut you down, and deflect.
I like how Jesus defined integrity the way I understand it. He said, let your yes be yes and your no be no. You just give an honest answer. It doesn't need any qualifiers. We hear qualifiers like, I've told you everything.
Mm-hmm.
Or other qualifiers, hand on the Bible. I swear to God. I swear on my
everything.
grandma's grave. All these qualifiers. And what that does is it sets up 2 levels of honesty. That if I don't have my qualifier, I must not be telling the truth.
Mm-hmm.
But if I'm really telling the truth, I add my qualifier. And I like the simplicity of the teaching of Jesus where he just says, let your yes be yes
And your no
and
be
your
no.
no be no. Let your word stand on its own. That's integrity. So when we betrayers, especially in early recovery, when we use that phrase, I've told you everything, that sentence almost never means what it sounds like it means. It usually means something much more specific. In this episode, we're going to take it apart. Because most of the damage that gets done isn't done by the original deception. It's done by what is said after exposure.
Before we go in, I want to identify who we're talking to, because we're going to be talking to both the betrayed partner and the betrayer. If you're a partner listening today, you may be wondering whether your inability to feel settled by it means that there's something wrong with you. And I want to say this very clearly. The discomfort you are feeling is data. It's your gut sending red flags. It's your enteric system. It's not pathology. Your nervous system continuing to register an incomplete reality is what's happening.
For the men listening, this is the episode where we examine a specific behavior. The discomfort that you feel is okay. The integrity work doesn't happen around it. It happens through your discomfort. So hang in there. Let's start with what partial disclosure actually is. Because most people, including most of the men I work with, they don't see it as deception. They would call it discretion.
That's a really good way to put it.
They actually think that they're protecting her.
Mm-hmm.
It's a form of self-deception before they deceive her. Every one of those angles that we're talking about today is part of the deceptive system.
And that's why we say you don't get to filter out her reality.
Right. You're
And
no
what-
longer the gatekeeper. That's right.
Absolutely.
In the Minwalla model, what we're describing is what he calls integrity abuse. This is 60 some odd behaviors that continue to do harm to our partner even after the secret basement has been exposed. He uses a metaphor of trauma rooms, 22 different rooms that describe types of trauma injuries that betrayed partners can experience as a result of the deception. Do you happen to recall which
It's
trauma
room
room?
6.
So we're kind of touching on, when we talk about partial disclosures,
Yeah.
we're touching on
Room 6.
trauma room 6, which is disclosure trauma.
Yeah.
Okay. Partial disclosure is one of those integrity abuse tactics that we use. It looks like disclosure, but it functions like management and manipulation. Partial disclosure, let's look at the definition. Partial disclosure is the release of an organized subset of the truth, but it is arranged and presented as the whole truth in order to either reduce consequence or manage perception or retain control of the narrative. Notice there's 3 things in that definition. First, it's a release of an organized subset of truth. Something has been selected to come out and something has been selected to stay down. Second, it's arranged as the whole truth. The claim is the second deception. The first deception was the hiding. The second deception is the claim that the hiding has stopped, but it hasn't. And third, it has a function. It works. It benefits him. It buys him something, either reduced consequence, the appearance of cooperation, or he's retaining control. Control of the narrative.
Mm-hmm.
Narrative control is the active management of how the story is perceived by her. So we choose what to include, what to omit, what to emphasize, what tone to give it. So she reaches a conclusion that is shaped by you rather than by the facts. Letting go of control of the narrative is letting the story be what it is without managing how it sounds to her.
So when a partial disclosure is presented as a full one, this is to the betrayed partners, your body is reacting to the mismatch between his words and the data your nervous system has been collecting for years. Your second brain, your gut, whether you realize it or not, your enteric system, the gut, has been tracking small inconsistencies. The enteric system has built a map. So the disclosure he just gave you doesn't fit that map. And your gut is telling you it shouldn't, but he's telling you it should. That is your accurate perception encountering active reality manipulation in real time. Before we go into the next layer, I want to take a moment to tell you what the Joy Recovery Academy is, because what we're teaching today is exactly what we go deeper into. The Academy is a membership-based education space. It exists for one reason. It's where the betrayed partners can learn what actually happened to them in the language that matches their experience without being rushed.
It's also where the men can do the integrity work that most frameworks don't offer.
Mm-hmm.
Most of what passes for recovery is what we call pseudo recovery, fake recovery. It's a performance of change without the deceptive system being dismantled. The Academy teaches you how to tell the difference in your own behavior and what you've been told is recovery. We teach live twice a week. There's a full replay archive if you can't make the live teaching. There's live Q&A, and there's a resource library with the same tools that we use for our own recovery and for our private coaching clients.
There's even right now a 7-day free trial. If today's episode is resonating with you, the Academy might be the best next step. You can find it at joy-recovery.com.
Let's get concrete. I want to give you 5 sentences that are almost always partial disclosure, framed as full disclosure. If you're a betrayer and you've said one of these recently, this is the moment to listen without getting defensive. If you're a partner and you've heard one of these recently, this is the moment to stop wondering whether you're being unreasonable or not. Here's the first script. We've already mentioned it. I've already told you everything. This is the umbrella sentence. It does 3 things at the same time. It is so strategic. Number 1, it claims completeness. Number 2, it implies that further questions are unreasonable. And third, it relocates the problem from his ongoing deception to her ongoing distress. The deception becomes finished business. I've already told you everything. Her continued questioning becomes the new active problem in the relationship. What's usually true when this sentence is said is that he has told her some things. He has not told her everything most of the time. He may not even know everything that he hasn't told her, because the basement has been operating long enough that we've got compartments inside our compartments. But the sentence is delivered with confidence, because the function of the sentence is not necessarily to be accurate. The purpose of the sentence is to close the conversation. And sometimes it works. Let's look at the second script. You never asked. Now, we're going to come back to this one in more detail later, but let me give you the short version. When he says you never asked, that is often an attempt to make her responsible for information that he had a duty to disclose to her. It pretends that proactive transparency, which is the obligation to tell what she needs to know, whether or not she has the words to request it. It pretends like that's not the standard. It pretends that the standard is interrogation. If you craft a question and you word it just right, then I'll tell you the truth. There's no relational context where the betrayed partner is responsible for asking the exact right question in order to deserve the truth. None. That framework only exists inside the deceptive system. It does not exist outside of it. Script number 3. If you have a specific question, I'll answer it. This one is more refined. It sounds reasonable. It sounds like willingness. It even sounds like he's offering himself. But look at the structure of that sentence. He is maintaining control of the disclosure. He is making her generate the questions, which means she has to imagine what he might have done, which is traumatic in itself. And then he gets to decide what counts as a quote-unquote specific question. And he gets to decide how narrowly he wants to answer it. The technical manipulation lives in the word specific. A man who is doing real integrity work does not wait for the specific question. He proactively discloses. He says, here is what I have not yet told you. And I'm telling you now because you need it, you deserve it, and not because you found the right words to extract it from me. Script number 4. I told you the important parts. This is editorial control that is disguised as honesty. He has decided what's important. He has decided what's not important. He has done that calculation all alone without you and presented the result as if it's a finished deliverable. But important to whom? Important by what standard? almost always, important is by the standard of what doesn't threaten his standing. The details he calls unimportant are usually the ones that, if they were disclosed, would intensify the consequence for him. And script number 5, I don't remember. I want to be careful with this one because sometimes it's true. People genuinely don't remember every detail of every event across years of acting out, perhaps even decades. But the way to tell the difference between authentic, I don't remember, and strategic, I don't remember, is to look at what surrounds that sentence. If it's authentic, it's followed by something like this. Let me think about that. Let me see what I can reconstruct. Let me do some research. Let me write down what I do remember, and I'm going to bring everything that comes up for me back to you. Strategic memory issues is usually followed by silence, or by an attempt to move the conversation forward, or by irritation that she's still asking about this. If, quote, I don't remember is functioning as a wall instead of the starting point, that's not memory failure. That is a tactic to end the conversation. So for the men, let me give you a structural test. Ask yourself in writing, what have I not told her that if she found out tomorrow, it would hurt her for not knowing? If anything answers that question, you are inside a partial disclosure. Your integrity work hasn't even begun yet. That is the floor. That is the foundation that we build on.
That was great. Mind if I chime in real quick?
Sure.
Because I want to talk to the partners about what partial disclosure does to your body, your reality, and your capacity to heal. And I want to mention a caveat to the men listening because you need to hear this part too, specifically to understand the impact that your partial disclosure is having on your partner. When a betrayed partner receives a partial disclosure that's framed as a full one, something very specific happens. What happens is there's an additional trauma event. And unfortunately, it's an event that many of us betrayed partners have experienced. We experience this because this is how we understand how the secret basement was constructed, how it was maintained, and how it was hidden from us for so long. While a disclosure does provide clarity, a partial disclosure leads to that traumatic event. And that traumatic event is referred to as reality ego fragmentation. In the Minwalla model, this is trauma room 7. So what is reality ego fragmentation, or REF? This is the shattering of what you thought was real. Your nervous system has been working since the moment of discovery to rebuild a reliable map of what's true. Every accurate piece of information is helpful to a betrayed partner to rebuild that map. However, every inaccurate or incomplete piece of information framed as this is the truth, that does damage. And this is where that trauma injury happens. And it doesn't just happen once. It happens every single time she learns something new. So a partial disclosure framed as a full disclosure, it refragments her reality. Because now she has a map that he's offered, and he's stated, this is the whole picture. Her gut is telling her, no, it's not. This is not the full picture. And what you don't know is whether or not to trust the map he's just handed you, or the body that has already been overridden by him for years. Now, this doesn't mean you stop wanting the full disclosure. You're absolutely entitled to it. A full disclosure can be extremely vital in helping put safeguards in place to protect you, to build safety. Anyone who wants a full disclosure deserves that. It means that your healing does not get put on hold while you wait for him. Your stabilization is not contingent on his integrity. It cannot be. Because if it were, his integrity failures would continue to define the pace of your recovery. And that is not survivable. Remember, betrayed partners, your healing belongs to you. His disclosure fails are real, and they matter clinically, and they matter relationally, but they do not have the permission to be the ceiling or the foundation of your stabilization.
I love how you worded that. Thank you. I want to come back to one of those scripts and slow down on it because it deserves its own examination. You never asked. I have heard this sentence delivered by men who absolutely believed that they were telling the truth, and they weren't. I want to take that apart because most of the men I work with in the integrity phase don't yet understand why this sentence is a deception in itself. Here's the structure. Quote, you never asked, positions disclosure as a request-response loop. She submits a request, you submit a response. Information flows in proportion to the questions asked. On that design, anything that she did not ask is not something that you technically withheld. It's just something that wasn't requested, so I didn't share it. That thinking is wrong. It is fundamentally wrong. And it's wrong in a specific way. Disclosure in the context of integrity abuse is not a request-response system. It's not dependent upon her asking. It is a proactive, ethical obligation. Because here's what, quote, you never asked leaves out. She did not know what to ask. She could not know what to ask. The whole architecture of the deception was designed to make sure she didn't know what to ask. The basement is hidden precisely so that she cannot generate accurate questions about it. If she'd been able to generate accurate questions, the deception would have failed years ago. The fact that she didn't ask is evidence that the deception was very deep and very organized. There's a further piece. When a man says, quote, you never asked, he's also doing something else. He's shifting the moral burden. He is making her responsible for his integrity. What he's basically saying, in effect, is this. Your job was to extract the truth. My job was to release it when you extract it. That is not integrity. Integrity is the proactive obligation to disclose what she needs in order to make informed decisions about her life, without prompting, without specific questions, without her having to craft the right question in order for her to be entitled to the truth.
Before we move forward, let's spend a few minutes on what actually shifts when a partial disclosure becomes a full disclosure.
That sounds good.
Because this is where partners often have a hard time. And this is because the men in their lives sometimes claim to have done a full disclosure when they've actually really done a larger partial one. So, Roy, how do you tell the difference?
Yeah, let me share a few markers, then I want you to share the partner side. A few markers. These aren't exhaustive, but they're very practical. First, what does a full disclosure look like? It's proactive. He's the one bringing forward what she needs to know. She's not having to dig. She's not having to formulate questions. She's not having to extract it. A second marker that this is a full disclosure is it includes what he did not want to say. That's what a full disclosure is. It's the inclusion specifically of what he was most afraid to tell her. That last 10% that he thought he was going to take to the grave. So the discomfort that he feels in saying the full disclosure is part of the data that it is actually a full disclosure. And then a third sign is it doesn't require her to react in a particular way for him to keep telling the truth. Partial disclosure is usually partner dependent. He releases information based on how she's handling it. A full disclosure is not dependent on the partner and her reaction. He tells her what's true because it's true, not because she's handling well. And then a fourth marker I've seen is a full disclosure relinquishes narrative control. He's not managing how the story sounds anymore. He's not protecting his own image in the way that he tells the story. He is allowing the story to be what it is and to stand on its own. Jacqueline, do you have some thoughts?
I do. Thank you. From the partner side, when a partial disclosure becomes full, something specific happens in the nervous system. Now, the pain may not reduce. In fact, the pain may actually intensify because the picture is now more complete and more accurate. But the underlying instability, the not knowing, the gap between his account and your gut, that begins to close. I want to say this really clearly. We can survive the pain of a full disclosure. We cannot continue to accept partial disclosures. The instability of an incomplete disclosure framed as a complete is what keeps our nervous system and this long-term threat activation. Pain you can name, pain that you can locate, is pain that you can metabolize.
So we want to close this episode with just a few of the most common questions that we get from both sides of the room, from men and women, when it comes to partial disclosures. Jacqueline, what's a common question you get?
Well, betrayed partners will often say, well, he says he told me everything, but I still feel like something is missing. And they pinpoint that and they say, is that just my trauma talking? And here's my response to that. No, that's just not your trauma talking. Trauma can intensify and distort, and it's worth having support for that. But the something is missing part, that feeling, those nudges, that's usually not invented. What that is your gut continuing to register an incomplete reality. Your nervous system has been more of an accurate detector than you've been allowed to believe because of the covert phase, the manipulation, the gaslighting. So what is the work for a betrayed partner? Well, I'll tell you what the work isn't. It's not to talk yourself out of that feeling. The work is to stabilize enough so you can hold on to what your gut is telling you and process it. And then from there, work with a coach or a support system or a therapist and examine what that gap is actually telling you. When you feel an urge, that nudge, that something feels off, our intuition has been overridden for so long. We need to start learning how to retrust our gut, our enteric system. It's there for a reason. And so that's a really vital step. It's not always your trauma talking. There is just something registering in your gut that is sending you red flags that something feels off. And I encourage you to explore that.
Yeah, that's really good. Here's a question, very common. Men will ask me, but what if I have actually told her everything? There's no secrets. I'm not sitting on anything. Am I still not supposed to use that sentence? I've told you everything, when it's actually true. Here's my guidance. No, don't use it. Don't use it. And let me explain why.
I'm glad you said that.
Even if you have genuinely told her everything that you're currently aware of, that sentence, I've already told you everything, it closes the conversation.
It does.
And she still has the right to have that conversation. You are very subtly positioning her continued questioning as the problem. And here's the part that most men miss. You don't actually know that you've told her everything. You know that you've told her everything that you can currently, right now, remember and access. Those are not the same thing. Compartmentalization, it doesn't just fade away all at once. Things surface months and even years later. And a man who's done real integrity work, he knows this, which is why he doesn't say, I've told you everything. He says something different. He says, here's what I know right now, today. If anything else surfaces for me, I'm going to bring it to you proactively. I'm not going to sit on it. And you don't have to ask for it. You don't have to dig. I am going to come to you. I am going to maintain shared reality with you. Do you see how that sentence does the opposite work of the sentences that we've been talking about today? It doesn't shut down the conversation. It keeps the door open. And it locates the responsibility for ongoing disclosure where it belongs, with me, not with her. What's another one, Jacqueline?
Oh, is it wrong for me to want a polygraph?
That's a big one.
It is. My response to that is absolutely not. It is not wrong for wanting a means of verification when his word has been an instrument of deception for years. So, whether a polygraph is the right tool, that's up to you. What I will say is, just in conversation with Stephen Kabler, and we've done episodes on polygraphs with him, he's the person that Roy has used for his own polygraphs. One thing that he shared, which I found really interesting, was he has found that when he's administered a polygraph, that he's been able to pull out more information. And he says that this has been seen. I can't remember what his percentage was, like how often he's been able to pull out additional information, but it was pretty extreme and it was really impressive. He's been doing this for so long, he knows what to ask. I actually think that I absolutely encourage any betrayed partner, if you want additional verification because he has lied for so long and you're not sure if you can trust his words, absolutely go get a polygraph. And to the men, if you're telling the truth, if you've done a complete full disclosure and not a partial one, taking a polygraph should not be a big deal. You should be prepared to do it. And you know what? You find the polygraph, share it with your partner, and schedule the appointment and get it done. Don't make her do that. Take the initiative. Because I've usually seen that when there's a partial disclosure or when there's been omissions, that men tend to push back on wanting to take a polygraph. So what's another question?
One more. What if I tell her more and she ends the relationship? I hear this question a lot.
Oof.
And I want to be direct about it. If your integrity is contingent upon the relationship continuing, that is not true integrity.
That is 100% accurate.
It's a strategy.
Mm-hmm.
It's a form of manipulation. I'm going to perform integrity so that I can get this particular outcome. But if I don't get that outcome, my integrity goes out the window. It collapses.
Yep.
The integrity work that you're doing has to be partner independent. You tell her the truth because the truth is owed to her, because she has the right to know the truth and make informed decisions about her own life, which, yes, could include her ending the relationship. You tell her the truth because integrity is worth developing whether or not the relationship survives you telling the truth. If full disclosure ends the relationship, then that means the relationship was being held together by your deception.
Mm-hmm.
And that's not going to survive anyway.
If today's teaching connected with you, you might want to consider exploring the Joy Recovery Academy. It might give you an opportunity to go deeper. Look for resources for your healing and your recovery. There is a 7-day free trial, and you can go to joy-recovery.com to explore that. And lastly, as we close out, remember, we're living testaments to this. Joy is possible
when you live in integrity.
Thank you for listening to Joy Recovery Radio. If today's episode was helpful, you can find additional educational resources and information about the Joy Recovery Academy and our private coaching at joy-recovery.com. Remember, joy is possible when you live in integrity.